Hello, you legends. Today's video, I'm starting a build of the Colnago Y1RS. This is the Team Emirates edition. Basically the team paint scheme. I'm using this sprint stand just to show you that the way I was trained as a mechanic, when you're starting these kind of builds, this is an unusual bike in that there is no steerer tube. This is the head tube. I'm going to spin the stand. That's the head tube here. That is part of the fork. And this rod that you see here is a connector that has an adjustable cylinder up here that takes out the play once you assemble everything. This basically connects to the frame without having the standard steerer tube that you see. There is a proprietary bolt under here that you use to disconnect and get everything taken out. There are special notches that connect and so forth. So I'm gonna lay this down carefully here. I'm gonna show you the frame. I just took it out of the box. This is the frame. This is a 56, and this is what I was talking about. That part will sit in here. That's how it connects. So there is no steerer. A bearing goes up here, a larger bearing goes down here. You know, you have to lube them before you put them in, and they get in there. This section here is going to hold the Di2 battery. When I begin builds on frames like these, which I'm going to do now, I take my blue painter's tape to protect the areas that I don't really necessarily need to mess with during the build, to make sure there are no scratches or scuffs on the paint and so forth. The customer that brought it even requested that, but I assured him that I would. So I'm going to show on the video how I was trained to do that. A lot of people don't do that. I do because I don't think it's a big deal. So I'm gonna put the frame right here, and then I'm gonna take I'm sure I'm not the only one that does this, but we all the shops, we keep a lot of these wrapping paper that we get when people ship things, a lot of the parts and so forth. It's really good to just use to protect this frame, because this entire area here, we're not going to be messing with other than where you see the bolts. So what we're going to do is, instead of using bubble wrap, I just do this. The reason I'm doing down here is when I'm doing the bottom bracket, I'm using a torque wrench. It's swinging around so that the area that is most likely that it might hit, just in case, just kind of wrap this. And then I'm looking to see where I'm going to connect the bottle to. So this area here, I'm just going to protect. I'm going to cut this. So what I've done is put a bit of a shield on the areas that are most likely to come in contact accidentally with a tool or so forth. Doesn't mean I'm going to be careless, but it's just something that, this particular customer is about as anal as I am, probably more so. And he specifically requested, be extra careful. I know how you guys are dealing with tools and blah, blah, blah. And so I told him to just set him at ease that, hey, this is the way I was trained. This is how I always do it on new bikes. Because, it kind of dulls the experience. Somebody gets a new frame and you mess with the paintwork accidentally. So right here, this area is protected. That's all you kind of need. I'm not going to worry too much about down here. What I will do when I'm doing the build is this bike came without a chain protector here. So I'm going to use one of those clear chain protectors later in the build to put it on there. And it may be in the accessories box. I'll show you in a little bit. But I just wanted to do this example. I'm not going to wrap all the areas I'm going to protect. But that's what I'm going to do. So this area now there's no risk so much of chipping the paint or so forth and so on. I'm going to also do up here from here to this top, because I'm not going to be dealing with that. The bottle, where the derailleur goes, I don't wrap it because I need to work in that area. But you want to protect the areas where you're not going to be working so that if you're wrenching and let's say the wrench hits something, that area is covered. So all up here will be covered during the build. And then later on, when the build is further along, then you start undoing those areas. So I just wanted to touch on that. So I'm going to put the frame over here for now. The reason I'm using this stand right now is this is not going to be done for the entire build, but for a good portion of it. To get this thing, for one thing, I want to hold a fork in this stand. This is made by Feedback Sports. They call it a sprint stand. I don't use it that frequently, but it's kind of neat if you're doing something where you want to be mobile. It's very easy to put this stand. It comes with a travel bag or whatever, but I didn't buy the bag. I already had a bag from one of my other stands. But what I wanted to show is the versatility of this stand. As you watched me, I just adjusted the skewer here. It's a true axle to where once I close this is standing. It's not going to flop around. So now I can use it when I start my installation of the brake right here. And also when I start routing the cable, I may use this or I may just put it on the frame first before I route the cable. There is a hole up here where they have for you to route the cable. So as I go through the build, you will see that. This I'm not going to worry about wrapping because I'm not going to be doing a whole lot here other than mounting the brake caliper right here. The bike will have to be bled, of course, because you need the olives and everything when you connect it to the levers. Those of you who know how to work on bikes know what I'm talking about. The customer was also particular to request that the anodized brake bearing, the bottom bracket bearings, oh, please don't, make sure there are no scratches on the cup and blah, blah, blah. So what I usually do is I put like the blue tape around it, and I use the proper tool with a torque wrench that's not going to slip and make sure that all the forces are towards the frame as I'm actually torquing the bottom bracket. So those are the kind of things that just make sure you pay attention to details. So as the build goes along, I will be talking less because it takes less time to just go ahead and do the build, but I wanted to use it as an introduction. It's a very, very neat frame. It's got a proprietary seat post, which I kind of want to show you. Where is the box? The frame comes with what they call an accessories box. That's what this is. Has the Colnago logo on there. These are the bottle cages. Okay. There is a particular part of the frame that goes in that area where the bottle cages. The Di2 battery actually goes in there as well. This one is the lower cage. There's two bottle cages that come with the frame. They're proprietary, of course. And they also, something I want to show you for the handlebars. They, let me get the handlebars. The handlebars, which I think is kind of neat. They took the time to put these little tubes in there. They're internally routed cables that this bar uses. So by them putting these tubes in there, it releases us from a hassle of trying to route the cable from scratch, meaning that we can use these tubes to feed either the shift cable or whatever cables we may be using, depending on what group set you're using, of course. But I'm just saying that this is kind of neat. The brake cable here, which is what these are for, because this is electronic, so we're not going to be routing cables. If you were using something other than that, it will be here. Now, on the front of this, they've got a GoPro attachment here on the front of the bar right there. That's already built in to hold your cycle computer right up here. I don't know if you can see that. Okay. The length of this stem and stuff I'll get into when the bike is built. That's how you measure it. I took this out of the bag. It was in this accessories box here where I got the bottle cages out of. There's a bunch of other stuff in there, little knickknacks, the bearings for the headset, all of that's in there. I wanted to show you just how stiff this thing is. Hopefully the light will do us justice. This is the profile. This thing, look how thin that is. It is rigid, flat. Now, most builds, the back of this is a little rough. I'm feeling right there. They put something on there. It's very rough. It probably prevents it from slipping. The front of it has numbers on it that lets you know where your saddle is set. But what I always do with these is I put fiber grip on it. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to show you the frame. I've wrapped the areas that I usually protect. This is a Park Tool. They call it SAC2, but you can use any fiber grip from any vendor. And this just prevents a lot of slippage when you have two smooth surfaces. It's really nice for carbon. I actually use it on my steel bike because I have a carbon fiber seat post, and sometimes it used to slip. And so I put some fiber grip on it. So just put a little bit on there. Here's the frame. I have wrapped the areas that I usually protect. That's all frames. They don't have to be as unique as this one or as revolutionary as this one is. I wrapped the top two because I'm not doing anything on the top tube. Even if I were running cables, I would wrap the top tube until I got to that point in the build. Down here, I always wrap the upper down tube and the lower down tube because the middle, you're going to be mounting bottles anyway. I wrap that. The other reason I left this area open here is because this is where the battery will go. There's a hole right here. Let me turn it. I don't know if you can see that. My finger's going in. That's where the battery goes. The bottom bracket does not need protection here. I'm going to make sure this is lubed. It doesn't look like I need to chase it because the threads look really good. And how we test that is to make sure that we hand thread the bottom bracket in. And if it goes, it should go far enough without a whole lot of force. And then you know you don't need to chase the threads. If necessary, you can chase it up, but the threads look really clean. I mean, the level of quality on this preparation of this frame is awesome. So yeah, they didn't miss a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of excess. There's no stray carbon in there. You know, some of the less expensive carbon frames I built, they got loose carbon on the inside. That stuff is clean in there. So they're not messing around. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but I will be installing a clear chain protector, chain guard on this chain stay. It doesn't come with one. I will check the accessories bag. If they don't have them, I have the 3mm, a company called Expel uses a 3M film to make what they call paint protection film. And I think it's up to like 8mm, and some of it is 3mm, but it's very tough. And it's great for protecting your frame from, you know, the chain slapping on it or anything if you hit really intense bumps. This is the bolt for the wedge. It's nothing special, just a normal wedge. You can feel it when you put your finger in there. So now that I've put this in here, I'm going to slide this. What I was going to mention is that this bottoms out up here. They have a protective cavity in here that will not allow this to come too far down here. So if you bought a frame, let's say that you require to bring your seat post lower than what this will allow, you have to cut this when you do your saddle height setup. And that's the customer has to do that because I don't have their specifics. So you want to leave it like this until they're setting their seat post. And basically I would mention to the customer that it needs to be done. You can't go too far down. I'm going to put it in so you can see what I'm talking about. Right there, it stops here. I can feel it. Right there is where it stops. It does not come down here. So they actually have this area sealed off. It doesn't go any further because they don't want you interfering with the structure of the frame. So I believe that this person, I don't know how tall they are. This is a 56, depending on their saddle height. These frames, I went to their site, they have them to where I think it's extra small, small, medium, large, and extra large. Depending on where you fall in, they have minimum saddle heights and maximum saddle heights for each size. So if you get the right one, like for me, this is a 56, I would probably get a 58 because my inseam falls in the middle for the 58. Okay, so if you got something to where you require your seat post to go lower than what this setting is, you would have to cut that part out and then basically clean it with a file and then put it in. This is not something special. A lot of time trial bikes have the same thing where you have to cut the seat post, not the end of the world. It doesn't damage anything. But if you're planning on selling the bike or whatever else, you only want to cut out what you have to. So usually you go like in maybe 5 mil or 1 centimeter increments. Once you check your seat height and you figure that you need to go down, you just cut out exactly what you have to. You don't want to do too much. So if you ever sell the bike, somebody else can also set theirs correctly. But it only matters where you really need to go lower than this, because this is the minimum. This is where it bottoms out. So if you need to go up, that's not a problem. But you can only go up so much. I mean, that's the thing. You don't have that much room to play with. In fact, when I'm looking at it, let's see here. I'm going to put my finger right here and take it out. This is how much you have to play with. So going up, that looks like about 2.5 centimeters. I'm going to measure it. I want to be very specific. Let me measure how much you got to deal with. No, that's quite a, so you've got about, let's see, 3.5 centimeters, which is about an inch and almost a half, inch and 5/8 or something like that. So 3.5 centimeters is what you've got to play with, meaning from where it bottoms out on this particular frame anyway. I don't know if it's true for all of them, and usually there are. So there's 3.5 centimeters inside the frame. So if I measured it with a tape measure carefully, because I don't want the metal to touch, right there, yep, that's about right. So that means it's bottoming out right here. Right where these two tubes are meeting is where they have this area blocked out. You can't go any lower than here. You're not getting anywhere in this cavity. I hope that kind of lets you know. So, and that has to do with the structure. They've got this area beefed up. That's carrying a lot of load. You're sitting on this thing. So it makes sense. So this hollow area here, you're not getting in there. There is something here that's making sure this tube and that tube are together. So that's 3.5 centimeters. That's all you got to play with. Okay? The hardware is in the accessories box. I will mount all of that. They don't have a saddle. I'll probably just put a mock-up saddle on there to make sure the angle is set for the person and all that kind of stuff once the wheels are on at the end of the build. So leave in your comments if you want to see this build, because I'm on the fence as to whether I'm going to film all of it, because it takes more time to film as you build. And the way I'm going to do it is probably just film stages of the build, the most critical areas, so that other mechanics out there can use my experience with this to help them if they encounter a bike like this, because these bikes are not run of the mill. Okay, so right now on camera, I'm going to, I believe this is looks like a 4. I believe that's a 4 Allen key. Yeah, that's a 4. So all I'm going to do here now is, this is pretty much what we usually do, kind of get the seat posts in there. And this stand is shaped like one side is circular on this stand, the clamp. One side is circular. I may zoom in so you can see it in post-production. One side is circular, but one side is almost like that, to where this will slip right in. This stand was designed by Cyclist for bike shops. Oh, these are people in Portland, Oregon called EVT Tools. I will put their link in the bottom, because I also use their inflator and some of their other stuff. They make the best stuff. It's not dirt cheap, but it will outlive you. And it's for heavy duty professional use. So I basically got rid of the arms that came with this park stand and bought their arms because it's just so much better. So I'm going to put it here. This is what you normally would do. I would probably flip that. So what I would do is to make it higher up. The position that this stand was in was for mountain bikes and other big bikes. When I'm working on road bikes, I flip this up in this position and you see me putting it on. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and clamp it. So now this is up, which allows this bike to now be mounted as you see like that. The seat post is going to go in here and this side of the arm just mates with that shape. So the backside handles circular stuff, but once you get this on there, the frame now, you just stop. The frame is secure. So I could do the build here. I showed earlier, let me grab the sprint stand so you can see what I'm talking about. This is the sprint stand. So I like having the option of either using the sprint stand or this to set up a new build. This is more versatile in that I can loosen, this is very modular. I can flip this bike 360 on this stand. So when I start to route the cable, I can move the frame. So this I will only use to get the brakes on there and maybe see, I can start the routing of the brake cable and so forth on here. And then I'm gonna bring this and put it over here. But usually you can start here. You can even put the frame here as well. And you connect them. You could build it on here. There are some videos online like from Colnago where most of their build, they're doing it here until they get to where they're using the wheels. The customer's wheels are up here. This is what he's going with. He's not doing tubeless, so I don't have to mess with that. He brought them already mounted and everything, so the tires on there. So I just hung the wheels up. That's what's going with. This is a Hyper, the brand is Hyper. So I'm gonna put that back up here. Hang that up. So those of you who may have a small shop or whatever, it is always great to have a place for things, meaning that you've got to take a little bit of time out of your workday and plan your shop. Every day, do a little bit, add a hook here, whatever. Everything in this shop I've done. So you got to invest that time to make sure you got things for your lubricants and blah, 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 because the more organized you are, the more bikes you can get out, get ready. It's just more efficient. So I will read the comments. If people really want to see the build, I will make a video, because the videos that I've seen online, there's one where the customer actually sent me some links to look at some of the videos, and quite a few of them. One of them, the guy was taking apart an existing bike just to show how things work, which was kind of neat to see. But the builds were where they weren't really showing you how to put things together. What I want to do is to show how I'm doing the bottom bracket, what kind of bottom bracket we're using. That would be a section of the build. How I assemble the headset, that would be a section of the build. So when I'm doing critical things, and I may just break them up into enough chapters to where if you're interested in how the headset goes, you just go to that one. I think that's the proper way to do that, because there aren't a whole lot of videos about how to put these bikes together. And I think it would go a long way into having some evergreen content on there for those of you who want to do your own builds. And I think that's the direction I want to go into, but I want to see what kind of interest is out there for this. So please feel free to leave your comments. That will help me decide whether I want to spend the time doing this. So to that effect, let nothing stop you from getting your K's in.